Surprise, assholes, we're live. I mean, we're early. I mean, we are also live, but we're early.
You're here. You've come.
I mean,
Hello.
I knew you would, but you've come.
We're magnetic.
We're magnetic?
Our personalities, they draw them in.
Okay.
Nonsensical rambling. Go.
Anyway, hi, early people. How are we? Yes, welcome. Yes, we're slightly early because we were both just ready and sitting here and we were just talking about movies and stuff, and I was like, should we just hit go live, because we're just sitting here waiting for the clock to get to 45 minutes. So yeah. And also, so today is going to be a slightly shorter episode because I'm doing a co-stream with Page Cartoons later on tonight. That'll be over on Twitch, and that's kicking off at 7. So my hard out today is 6 o'clock, and like I'm probably going to be what?
I'm good. Oh, I thought I spelled Twitch incorrectly.
Oh, I see.
I misread it as
Twatch.
I was like, hold on a minute.
Yes. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, we're probably I think we're aiming for we're aiming for a 2-hour stream today. So I've got time to get back home, get a pizza, and then start up what's probably going to be a 6-hour live stream. Myself and Page Cartoons are going to be doing a randomizer run. We're going to be doing we're going to be doing what's called an archipelago. Am I pronouncing that right? An archipelago, like a group of islands.
I was wondering if it was intentionally pronounced differently.
Is it, well, that you know me. Is it archipelago?
Archipelago?
Archipelago.
As in the group of islands. Archipelago.
Archipelago. Okay.
Yes.
Archipelago. Like so many words, I've seen them written down for years.
Okay.
I've never heard anyone say them out loud.
Okay.
So I just don't know.
Oh, I see. This is your grimoire.
Yes. Yeah. Archipelago.
Archipelago.
Archipelago. We're going to be doing Archipelago. So I'm going to be playing Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening randomized. Paige is going to be playing Sonic Adventure 2 randomized, and items from our games will be scrambled. So I will be finding things that Paige needs to complete his game in my game, and vice versa.
Are you playing the Game Boy version?
Yes, yeah. To my knowledge, there is no randomizer for the remake because the Switch is kind of a pain in the ass. So yeah. I would like something that is slightly more up graphic from OG Game Boy, but also this is one of the reasons why I really need to learn Link to the Past. Yeah.
So what was Link to the Past on?
Link to the Past is Super Nintendo and Game Boy Advance, because they're kind of the same thing, sort of. So yeah. The Game Boy Advance is...
The Game Boy Advance is not a Super Nintendo.
They are comparable in they're comparable platforms.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So yeah.
I was just like, no, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Look, one of them you plug into a TV, obviously, yes. However, they both have the same approximate computational power. So
I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there are a lot of Game Boy Advance games that are basically ports of SNES games.
No.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, Super Mario World.
But also more the fact of, that's wild, that they took the SNES
Yeah.
and the Game Boy Advance,
Yeah.
and they have...
I mean, granted, there's like,
No, but I mean, just like that power scaling to energy efficiency scaling kind of thing over was it 15 years?
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that?
When
20 years?
SNES must be 95-ish. No, earlier than that, 94.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
when
going
did
to
when did the SNES come
the
out?
Google. SNES really. Oh. Release date.
Are you too early? We are indeed early. Yep, we're only waffling at the moment, but
Japan, it was November 1990.
1990. Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay then. Game Boy Advance 2001.
Yeah, March 2001 in Japan.
Bang on the money. Yep. Cool. Yeah. So so there you go. It's a decade of technological advancements.
Yeah.
They managed to squish the SNES into a Game Boy Advance, basically.
Oh wow! It came out in 2001 in PAL as well. I somehow expected it to be like 3 years later because Nintendo.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, like I think I got a Game Boy Advance like
Yeah.
2002, maybe 2003.
Oh my god! Its introductory price was $99.99.
Yeah,
That's whack.
$100. Yeah, equivalent to 180 in today, $180 in today's money. Yeah, that was reasonably expensive then.
I mean,
I
I
would
was
say.
viewing that from the other way around of Jesus Christ, isn't that cheap?
Yeah, well, it's not devastatingly expensive, but then on the other
Yeah.
hand, like the handhelds, the Game Boy was never cutting edge technology.
No.
Whereas by comparison, the Switch is. I hesitate.
No.
The Switch is not cutting edge technology, but the Switch has a vision of being a mainline console, not a
From
not
2020.
just a handheld kind of thing. Yeah. So yes.
But yeah.
Did the customer from last week tell us why they swapped the CPUs? Not directly. He was just like, oh, I was just trying all kinds of things, I think. I don't know, whatever. But I didn't really want to talk about it that much. So, yeah, whatever. We just got it done. Also, yeah, I don't know what the hell you're looking at. Mobile adapter GB. A mobile adapter GB connecting a Game Boy Color and a mobile phone. But why?
So you could play online.
No. Jesus. That's incredibly... Yeah, online service. Wow.
What?
Like, that's amazingly cool, but
For
like...
Pokemon Crystal and Mobile Goof.
God.
I'm just going to
Yeah.
play Goof on the weekend.
What, was that, like, peer-to-peer? Did you have to just, like, know the number of the person you wanted to dial into or something, do you think?
Don't know. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's mad. It was charged at 10 yen a minute.
10 yen a minute. I mean,
But just charging per minute obviously makes it somewhat prohibitive.
yeah, but, well, yeah, how much is 10 yen in today money? £5p in today money, so yeah. So it's not
Yeah.
it's not much. But however, yeah, it was obvious. I think I don't think you were intended to really play a lot. I think this was probably largely made for exchange of player data kind of
Yeah.
thing. Pokemon trading, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For the trade center,
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause it was Pokemon Crystal. It was kind of the big game.
Yeah, that's it. Like I can't see people doing Tetris head to head over that kind of connection.
No.
So yeah. Japan only accessories for Pokemon games or wild like that? Yeah.
That's mad.
Hmm.
Oh.
Whack. When I was at ScotiaCon the other week, I did run into a guy who had a Game Boy Color with the Game Boy camera around his neck.
Oh, yeah.
And immediately I was just like, oh my god, please take a picture of my con badge with your Game Boy Color. Like, that's obviously why you're carrying it around, is to take pictures of people with it, you know. And he was just like, yeah, sure thing. And so, you know, he set it up and took the picture and stuff. And so I've just got a picture of just my con badge, and it came out surprisingly well. And I was just like, oh, you know, like, can you export that like that? Like, do you have a way of like getting it out of it? And he's like, oh yeah, this is a modified one. It's got an SD card in it, so I can get the pictures out of it.
Oh god, you can get the actual proper
yeah.
pictures out. Oh, that's awesome.
So it's running custom firmware, so it's not like purity. However, it's still using the original sensor and everything. You know?
But that's cool.
So he's able to export it onto an SD card, and then he was just like, yeah, I'll send it to you on Telegram. So yeah, and I was like, that's so cool, and like it was such a good icebreaker piece as well, because it was just like, yeah, like as soon as I passed him on the staircase and I saw it around his neck, and I was like, oh my god, please take a picture of my con badge with that. That's so cool. You know?
But it's like you look at it and you look at some of the pictures that come out of it. 'Cause there was a whole thing I saw on Reddit about it, where someone had taken a couple of pictures around their city, kind of thing, and I looked at it and I was just kind of like, you know what?
Yeah, like
That's mind-blowingly good.
it is remarkable what it can do. Like, don't get me wrong, you know, like it's yeah, like it's black and white, but considering what you're working with here, because like the Game Boy is a potato, you know, the Game Boy is a 4-bit system, you know, and it is astonishing, like the algorithm they wrote to dither the shading and everything.
Yeah.
You know, like when you look at all the dithering it's using in order to achieve grayscale shading, it's astonishingly good, you know. Like, obviously, there's only so much you can do when you've got that many pixels to work with, but it's pretty good, yeah. 128 by 128, yeah.
Yeah. It's just the fact that you can still work out what it is and what's going on.
Yeah.
Huh. Madness.
Yeah. Was it Elliot? Let me find out. I'm not going to give their full name because reasons, but let me just check. I didn't know them. I just met them at the time. I don't know them by that name.
A project or two has made the Game Boy camera work as a PC webcam. Oh, imagine turning up to a Teams meeting or something.
Yeah. However,
with that.
They are a Goat Dragon hybrid, if that means anything to you, TFT. So yeah, I will speak only in code. So yeah. It was a furry convention, man. I don't need to spell it out, you know. But yeah, it was really cool.
It's the only way I can post pictures on social media is by using a Game Boy camera. That way they're sufficiently pixelated to not hit content, to not hit nudity filters.
Yeah. Oh, so probably no. No, fair enough then, yeah. Phil Spencer retiring. Oh, I see. The guy from Retro Future. No. Oh, I see. No, don't know who that is. Yeah. Yeah. I merely remarked on the off chance that you happen to know someone who was going to ScotiaCon. Apparently, Gernigar was just like, hey, ScotiaCon. So I don't know if you were there, but cool. But yes. Anyway.
I read it as Garnier, as in like
Garnier?
the hair products.
I was trying to remember their slogan, but I can't, so yeah.
Oh no, that's Herbal Essences, never mind.
I was thinking maybe it's Maybelline, but yeah. Anyway, Phil Spencer retiring or departed or resigned or...
He has not been departed.
He has become
Phil,
the departed.
your use. You have outstayed your use. You are departed.
Anyway, Phil Spencer not in charge of Xbox anymore. I think like a lot of people, I have mixed feelings about this because Phil Spencer has done a lot of interesting things. He's also been at the helm for a huge number of blunders. I have believed in Phil Spencer's ability to deliver a product. However, like right now, Xbox has been a big old nothing burger for quite a long time. And like lots of people have been saying like, oh, that's pressure from up top and it's not Phil Spencer's fault and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know, man. He's in charge of Xbox and Microsoft Gaming is nowhere right now.
Yeah.
You know, Xbox is irrelevant. Game Pass is currently irrelevant. That Bethesda buyout, that's currently irrelevant because they're not turning up anything. Did they buy Activision or was it? Or am
they bought
Activision.
Actiblizzard.
Actiblizzard, yeah. That's irrelevant at the moment. So like,
have we seen the current Call of Duty?
Yeah. So it's just like, like I don't know, man. At what point does it become Phil Spencer's fault for not delivering anything?
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, he pushed cross-platform play. Yeah, like I will 100% agree. He's done some good things. However, also, you know, there's been plenty of blunders, but also like none of the wins are recent. And at what point do we be like, okay, this guy's not winning anymore? He hasn't been winning for a while.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe it's not his fault, maybe it's outside pressure, but the end result is the same. Xbox isn't winning and hasn't been winning for a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for someone else to pick up the bat. You know, now the person who's coming in to pick up the bat is not a gamer, and is also coming from the AI division, and so you know that's kind of concerning. But I don't know, man. You know, just
Is it though?
they put
It'd
out.
only be concerning if Xbox is relevant.
Yeah, I mean, they put out some statements saying like, oh, you know, our vision for games is that they will always be made by humans for humans and be art and stuff like that. However, they then followed that up with using the latest technologies. It's like, what kind of latest technologies? You know, what kind of latest technological tool advancements, huh?
AI neural rendering.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, we'll see.
So, to be particularly difficult, only for the sake of being difficult, the latest technology, AI, NVIDIA DLSS 4.5,
Yeah.
is that not allowed? Because it's the latest technology and it's
Oh,
AI.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm being difficult for the sake of being difficult,
Sure.
but
Yeah, like you're not wrong. It doesn't change the conversation in the slightest. But yeah,
it's just kind of a case of like, hopefully, that's
Yes.
the only direction that's meant. Not, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
we fired all of our junior
yeah.
art.
Also, like the charitable read is that it was just corporate fluff speak, where they're saying that they want to be at the cutting edge of gaming technology, which
Yeah.
is a completely ambiguous and meaningless thing to say. It's corporate fluff for someone who is picking up office, you know. So yeah, I'm not, you know.
No, for sure. But
Absolutely.
like being
So-
difficult for the sake of being difficult.
Sure. Yeah. So this isn't to say that we're expecting it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Game Pass is too expensive now. Yeah. I mean, you know, I was watching Wan's show earlier on today, and they were talking about this, and you know, Linus and Luke were saying that Game Pass doesn't seem to have gone in the direction that people wanted. And they also said, I can't remember if it was Luke or Linus that said it, but one of them said that they said, I don't think Game Pass has gone in the direction that Microsoft wanted it to. Because, you know, they've bought up these big game studios, and these big game studios are coming up empty right now, which means that by extension, Game Pass has no value, because those big expensive studios they bought up aren't bringing any value to Game Pass.
Well, it's also just the fact of what
and
games are they even releasing?
Exactly. And the price is too expensive, so no one gives a crap, you know. So, yeah. So yes. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. I, you know, I'm not shedding any tears for Phil Spencer leaving because, you know, I don't think he's done anything useful for a while. I've got no beef with the guy, but I'm just like, yeah, like as I've like I've basically just been summarizing. It's like, okay, but what have your wins been lately? You know, whatever you're doing, it's not working.
Yeah.
So yeah. Did I ever try a CCFL to LED monitor transformation? No. I have replaced.
We considered it at one point, didn't we, for one of those Dells that we picked up?
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
it was also just the fact that it was just like,
just
or you could just get a good screen.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. I've done CCFL tube replacements on screens before, but yeah, it's just not worth it. Like, I mean, and it hasn't been worth it in a while because like LED screens came in
2006.
That's cutting edge.
Yeah,
but
that's when they started replacing.
Yeah, they became mainstream in like 2008, I would say. So like, so it's kind of a matter of like, even if we were having this conversation in 2018, you'd be talking about converting a decade-old monitor, and now we're nearly a decade on from that. So it's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So yeah. Also,
I want my dual link DVI.
Also, monitors are so cheap at the moment that it's just like, who cares? So yeah. Microsoft is a trash fire. Yeah, I mean the company as a whole is kind of a trash fire at the moment. I mean we might be seeing a turning point because they've started backing down on all the AI schlop with Windows now. They've started walking that rhetoric back, which seems to be possibly the start of a turning point.
Maybe. Yeah.
It might mean that they have actually read the room and realised that everyone hates the direction they're moving in, and like also by the fact of like their investment baby is OpenAI, who by all rumours are not in a good place right now. So it might just be that Microsoft have actually read the room, seen the writing on the wall, and realised that they need to start pivoting. So they have not done that yet, but if they have at least removed the blinkers, that's a start. And I support this. OpenClaw is dope. Oh my god, that's an incredibly stupid thing to do. I will not elaborate. Please don't run OpenClaw on your computer. It's fucking stupid. Anyway. So yeah. So that's a start. But we'll see. I mean, hopefully we're seeing a lot of companies, well, maybe quite a few companies might be starting to take about turns. I don't know, have you been following the Discord drama?
Not really.
Yeah, obviously Discord have been in big drama over the age verification, forced age verification worldwide, apparently coming in next month.
Also, as far as I can tell, based off of what I've seen from a couple of people in other countries, you can completely bypass by going into the Family Doodad Centre thingy and setting a date of birth.
I'll get to that in a sec, because that's part of it, but not in the way you think.
Okay,
so yeah.
Because apparently that works to completely skip it if you're outside the UK.
Yes, hang on a sec. Let me go through the spiel, because that's a misinterpretation. You're not you're applying that in the wrong place. But yeah, anyway.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So obviously, everyone's up in arms about this because it's now worldwide, and this has been kind of really crappy. And like for us in the UK, a lot of people are being like, sort of, big deal. We had to deal with this when Online Safety Act came in last year. But the problem is that was Discord had to do that in the UK because they were now legally obligated to. So we were like, okay, look, their hands are kind of tied here. It doesn't matter if you like or dislike Discord. The government is forcing them to do this. If you've got a beef, you've got to take it up with the government.
Yeah.
However, worldwide, no one is forcing their hand. So this is a huge unforced error. And the fact that they're using Persona, which has massive trust issues right now for multiple reasons of connections to Palantir and stuff like that. So massive trust issues. Everyone is being like, absolutely fucking not, So big deal. And so Discord, so they've been saying, oh, we're gonna use an AI system that is going to analyze your behavior, and we're gonna figure out for the vast majority of people using AI whether they're adults or teenagers, and most people probably won't even have to age verify. And so now we roll into last week when Discord said to all UK users that they're conducting an experiment with UK users that are age verifying. And that also meant more data was going to be gathered and retained, which threw up even more red flags. And this came to a head on Thursday when pretty much like 90% of UK age-verified users all got flagged as teen again and were told that they have to re-verify. And for a lot of those people, the face check, which is the way that doesn't involve having to give up turnover ID, did not work at all. And also just it pissed off everyone, including myself, because I was like, no, bollocks to this. I've already age verified. I've already played your stupid game. I engaged with you in good faith. I defended you on this. And now you're telling me I have to do this again.
Yeah.
The heck out of here with that. And this is where that parental controls bit comes in, because it turns out that if you've been hit with this "you must re-verify" flag, if you go to settings and parental center, and then either put in your date of birth or a date of birth, or for me, as soon as I clicked on the parental center, it just glitched slightly and said, "You are now age verified." I didn't even have to put in a date of birth, and it fixed it. And that's the case for a lot of people. So that's what that is fixing, the UK verification hiccup.
Interesting, because it was posted by Americans in an American Discord server.
Interesting. So I don't know.
Only talking to Americans.
Oh, okay. So apparently other people.
I am the token foreigner.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I see. My understanding was that it was just UK people that had been hit, and this was Discord testing their AI detect if you're a adult system, which had obviously just completely failed miserably in that it just flagged everyone as teens, even when they'd already verified, you know. So
The fact of having it able to output its answer into the live data seems chronically stupid when you're testing it.
Absolutely insane. So all of this, we've got this mounting evidence of like this whole system is completely untrustworthy. But like I said, you guys know I'm not a tinfoil hat guy. I will be like, you know what? I'm really easy to convince. Show me the evidence. Don't tell me that they're gathering all of your data and they're spying on me. Show me the evidence. It's really easy to convince me. Just show me the evidence. However, right now, we're at a point where there are so many red flags that it's just like...
But have you considered the quality of the material? It's not even that high quality material.
Yeah, there's so many red flags that I'm like, you know what? I'm not okay with this anymore. I've had enough of this, you know. However, that much being said, apparently, as of like today, I think, Discord have ended their partnership with Persona in the UK. I don't know whether that applies to worldwide or not, but in the UK, over this whole debacle. Now, that is a start. You know, this has not solved the problem, because now they've got to find a new partner, and that needs to be not crappy. But also, we don't know if they're just going to completely restructure how they're approaching the age verification system, because unfortunately, like in the UK, they still need to age verify people because they're legally obligated to. We don't know if this means that they've just put a worldwide age verification on the back burner for now, which they could do because they're not obligated to. But again, that's why I sort of brought this up, is that this is another stage where we've got a company which has at least read the room. We don't know if they're actually on the mend yet, but at least they've actually they've stopped harming people. They have stopped pushing the knife in, which is the start of not being a crappy company anymore. The fact that they're not actively stabbing you. This does not mean that they are forgiven. This does not absolve them, but at least they're not actually pushing the knife in now. So that's a start.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, we'll see. All data was always being retained. Yeah, see, this is the problem, is it's hard to say, because again, remember, like for the face scan's terms and conditions said this is done on device and the image is deleted. The image never leaves your device. But the problem now is that we're now getting into the realms of like, okay, but what about the biometric data that it has scanned from that image? Does that leave the device? The terms and conditions didn't say anything about the biometric data. Now, I've not seen any evidence that they have gathered this biometric data, but this is the problem when I say that, there's not evidence, but there's a lot of red flags. And given how sketchy these age verification companies are and what ties they currently have, it's a case of like, we've no reason to give them the benefit of the doubt at this point. There's so many awful things that they are capable of doing, and that there is no evidence that they're not doing that it's just like, oh my God, please, So yeah.
I need my laptop to look at an email to comment on something about this, just because I was just like, oh yes, I need my email account, but I don't have that email account on my phone.
Do you want to pass me that ThinkPad? We'll get that guy out of the way.
It's done, other than that.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll deal with that on Tuesday. That looks like not a big deal. So
yeah, I was just waiting for you to be at a point where I could say,
To stop
by the
rambling,
way,
yeah.
by the way, tangenting to come back, wondering if you think SteamOS will become the preferred gaming OS on desktop PCs. I know it's not official, but for state of Windows, do you think SteamOS may be any better? My short version of that is it depends on whether it supports enough hardware. It depends on whether it gains proper RGB hardware control, because that's what's going to convince most normie gamers. Can I set the RGB on my RAM?
It will certainly help, yeah.
Because if you can't, I guarantee you're not going to be able to convince most people.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be a good start. Yeah, yeah. I think the problem is, and a lot of Linux evangelists greatly overestimate the average person's willingness to switch their systems. Even like, I'm not even going to say the average normie, the average gamer who is internet savvy is still not necessarily remotely tech savvy. You know, like I know people who are very much gamer savvy and they have interest in games. They acquire games they want to play and they play them and they work out technical systems inside those games. But ask them what hardware they've got in their PC and they're like, I don't know, I didn't build it, I just bought a gaming PC. So ask them to switch to Linux and they're like, what? No, I don't know how to do any of that. You know, I think a lot of people greatly underestimate the amount of resistance there will be from that base kind of thing, and that will greatly inhibit the uptake of these things.
I think if we see Steam machines from people other than Valve that actually have high-end hardware in, so something that isn't slower than last year's graphics cards and processors, something that's actually relevant and modern, yeah, I think it will see a reasonably good carve out.
Yeah.
Because if you can go to all of your gaming friends, buy this pre-built PC that's an excellent price and it's got an OS on there that's better than Windows for gaming.
Yeah.
All the configuration you have to do is type in your username and password.
Yeah.
Then what they're going to do that compared to now you have to work out X, now you have to work out Y.
Yeah. And given that so much of what we do these days is all just within browser, then it should be extremely straightforward for, you know, a high percentile of users to just switch to a different operating system with no particular deal, on the assumption that the new system just works on their hardware. Because like making the system just work on everyone's hardware, that's a solvable problem without user intervention. You know, the Linux community, Valve and so on, they can put the elbow work into making SteamOS just work on like 99% of hardware, you know. So that's solvable without user intervention, and that will get people very far. I'm starting to think about this because I installed Linux Mint on a PC over there earlier on today because I need to start my Linux challenge, and I wanted to start recording the installation process, but I'm like, oh my god, I'm never going to get this done. Just stick Linux on there and start playing with it and record a video later on. Like in the worst case scenario, I can record the installation process. I can redo the installation progress and record that later on and say, I've already tinkered with this. I'm going to start from scratch and show you how I set it up, kind of thing. But I'll get back to you in just a moment. But like one of the things I noticed that so far I haven't run into, but just straight away, as soon as I hit the desktop on Linux, I was just, I wanted to like bring up Task Manager. So I right-clicked on the taskbar at the bottom, was like, there's no Task Manager. And I was like, now the problems start. You need that familiarity. But I clicked on the menu in the bottom left and I typed in, for some reason or other, I started typing Activity Monitor because that's what it's called on a Mac. I don't know why I did that instead of Task Manager, but I typed in Activity and it came up with System Monitor. And I clicked that and it brought up a thing that looked just like Task Manager. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's there. So this is the kind of familiarity we need. They need to make sure that things that we are expecting to find are findable. So that's what we need. And that will be a big thing that I'm looking out for. Top. That's command line. You lose. You automatically lose because that's command line.
Yeah.
Sysmon top. You automatically lose because that's command line.
Yeah.
As soon as you have to open the command line, you lose. Average people do not command line. Average people don't know how to do Windows run.
Average people don't know how to right click.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. The Linux community massively overestimate what the average person is not just capable of doing, but willing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah. Windows users need to stop expecting Linux to be just like Windows. Why? Why should they? Genuine question. If you want people to use your system, you need to make it familiar. Otherwise, they're just going to stay on Windows. Like, don't get me wrong. That there's a bit of give and take here. Some things are going to be different, but why would I learn another system when I could just stick with what I know? So yeah. Copyright reasons. I mean, no, it's not going to be exactly the same. Absolutely, but come on, you get what I'm saying here. So yeah. Right, you were going to refer to something.
Yeah, I can't find specifically the name of what I wanted to look at.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But it was a case of, as a concept, it was going back to the age verification and ID verification and so on. This is a thing that banks have had to do for years.
Yes.
Financial institutions have had to do for years.
Yeah.
How come they've solved this problem?
Yeah. Well, that's possibly the interesting thing, is that this is what Persona has a background in. This is why a lot of services like Discord and so on are turning to Persona, because they have a background in doing ID checks for financial institutions.
Yeah.
However, yeah, and that's it. And this is where it gets sticky. Maybe there's less of an assumption of privacy there, and this is the thing. Maybe Persona, maybe Persona hasn't had any significant breaches of user data, because this is the thing: is everyone bangs on about how Discord has already been breached twice, but what's actually happened is the first breach was a third-party support team, which is not Persona. And the second one is Persona, but that revealed some of their inner workings. It did not leak customer data. So this is the problem here. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not going to bat for Persona here, because like I said, there's just, I don't know, man, it's just red flags everywhere. But this is where it gets sticky, is that, it's difficult. But also I think, if I were to put on a tinfoil hat for a moment, this is where, if I was to put on a tinfoil hat, this is what I believe is their defense, is to say, like, we haven't leaked any customer data. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean that you're not assisting the building of a worldwide mass surveillance network, which is what Palantir are doing. And you have a lot of ties to Palantir, because Peter Thiel is a big investor into Persona, and they have said there are no ties between Palantir and Persona. However, I'm sure you can say that on paper while people have conversations in coffee shops, and say, here's what we're doing, here is the data that we have gathered, here is what we have discovered, and stuff like that. Just because there's no paper trail doesn't mean that they're not doing stuff, And like I said, this is very tinfoil hat. This is conspiratorial thinking. But in the world that we're currently in, it's the same thing with just privacy issues, with invasive advertising and stuff like that. We're at a point now where their capability to do awful things is too prevalent to trust them not to do awful things.
Yeah.
We don't have evidence that they're doing awful things. but they have the technology to do it, and they have the financial incentive to do it.
Yeah.
So we're at a point now where it's just like, I just don't want to play. I just don't want to be involved in that anymore, you know. And I think that's why we should push back on it, because, yeah, while we've got no evidence that they are doing awful things, there are so many there are so many incentive structures for them to do the awful things.
Which separately leads on to the thing of, actually, if you want to instigate change in is you have to go after that system. You know, the legislation needs changing.
Yeah.
The financial incentive needs changing.
And this is why, you know, I was talking about this in the Discord yesterday. I said, you know, I'm not opposed to age verification. You know, like, case in point, I'm a VR chat user. VR chat is known to have similar problems that Roblox has, where you have adults and minors sharing the same spaces, which can create bad situations. So, you know, VR chat have got an age verification system that they're trying to very gently roll out on a voluntary basis, and they're trying to solve this. And so, you know, the fact is, age verification is something where there are lots of reasons to want it. So I support age verification. What I don't support is the requirement to provide all of my personal details to a privately owned company. And this is why I think if the UK wants to mandate age verification using something like the Online Safety Act, then it needs to have a state system in place where we can actually trust them.
Ultimately, that part. Or at least not even the fact of trust them or anything like that, but it's information that has to have already been shared.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's no new data, and the data itself is not
right.
being shared. It's a check code that is being shared. It's a single-use check code, for example.
The state already knows who I am.
Yeah.
So, therefore, and if the state wants me to legally be obligated to prove my identification, then my response to that is like, okay, then tell them that I'm over 18, because you already know this.
Yeah.
Provide a system which would not be difficult to, you know, I mean, sorry, I was about to say it would not be difficult to build. I'm sure it's complex to build, but we have the technology to build a appropriate system where third parties can, I can provide a expendable code to a third party that enables them to get a yes/no answer on whether I'm over 18 from the state who already has my identification. And that, you know, while obviously there's no guarantee that no one will ever hack the UK government, but we have to agree that that's kind of a different situation to hacking a private company that arguably shouldn't have the data in the first place.
Because also, technically, in the strictest definitions, that also becomes an act of war.
Yeah.
Which is slightly larger consequence
That's
to
it.
you may face jail time.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Is just,
And it's kind of a case of like, I realise that's a slight reduction and an extreme end case, but it also kind of technically is.
Yeah.
And if people wanted to throw the book at that, that's technically a book that could be thrown.
Yeah. Like it's not a hot take to say that hacking the government is a higher profile act than hacking a private entity.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah.
But you get your national insurance number at 16.
Yeah, national insurance isn't proof of age.
Yeah, you get it at 16.
Yeah. It doesn't mean anything.
But that's the difficulty with some of that. It's just the fact of obviously all of the current forms of ID, none of them are 18 plus forms of ID that you get at 18 plus. So you'd have to build a secondary step on any of the forms of ID that we have.
I see what you mean.
If that makes sense. So you can have your provisional driving license from age 15, technically.
Yeah.
So it's a case of having a provisional driving license doesn't mean you're over 18. Having a driving license doesn't mean you're over 18. Having a passport doesn't mean you're over 18. None of the forms of ID that we have in themselves are proof of age. The
No.
data contained on them is the proof of age. And it's kind of a case of just, that's the verification step that would be the marginally difficult part.
Yeah, well, that's still not particularly difficult because we're, let's
No,
say,
but just a case
yeah,
of,
but
yeah,
that's the
which
thing.
is what
that
I'd have to
if,
do.
If I'm the third party trying to verify someone's age, I'm not asking if they have a driving license. I'm asking if they're over 18, and the DVLA knows I'm over 18.
Yeah, but it was
they
more the
look at
case
my
of
driving
just
licence
yeah,
and
yeah.
they check.
It couldn't be a passive yes no on the issuing of the ID or something. You'd actually have to have the data that was on the ID
No. But
processed.
we wouldn't want it to be based on having the ID anyway, because me as the third party, I don't need to know if you have a driving license. I'm asking the state, are they over 18?
Yeah, but no. Well,
I'm
sure,
not
but how do you
asking if they-
verify? How do you verify that? There is currently no method of verifying that. There's no method of proving that. You have nothing that is issued at 18 to prove you're over 18.
Okay, so so this works on the assumption that I have this works on the assumption that me as an individual have registered some kind of ID. Yes.
You have to have something registered. You do not
Yeah.
have to get a driving license, and you do not have to get a passport.
Yeah, I have to have something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although arguably,
That's more what I'm saying.
I'm just thinking like sort of just birth records. But yeah, you still would have had to have registered with the state. So yeah. You've got to have registered something, but that's this is one of the reasons why but the problem is now we start getting into the sticky realm of just state ID, which again I'm just like, I'm not opposed to state ID because it solves so many problems, and the vast majority of people have either a driving license or a passport, both of which are state ID, so we may as well just have a state ID, which solves that problem. But
and which simply has two flags on it.
Yeah. However,
Is driving license, is passport.
But we're now segueing onto a different thing.
So it's kind of, but it's just kind of, yes, that was more my thing, is just to find of, there would also need to be the thing of, well, what if you don't have a driving license or a passport?
Yeah, that's right. If you don't have either of those two things, then you kind of get stuck in a sucks to be you situation.
Yeah, because you don't have a biometric thing that is a government issued thing. Yeah. So it's just kind of,
Yeah.
But that requires you to have a government ID. If you do not have a government ID,
that's the
how
thing.
do you verify? How does the government verify that you're over 18?
Yeah, let's say
that's the point I was more making.
Let's say I'm a 20-something, and I haven't bothered passing my driving test yet because
I'm in the middle of London.
I live in the middle of London. I'm a 20-something. I have no reason to be driving, and I have no intention of going abroad, so I haven't gotten a passport. So I have no driving license and no passport. In the UK, that basically means you don't actually have, apart from your birth certificate, which is kind of weird to your birth certificates are kind of weird.
It's not
but
a
apart
proof
from
of
that,
ID.
it's not, is it?
No.
Yeah, it's a component of proving your ID, but it at face value is not a proof of ID. So yeah,
we technically do not have a proof of ID in this country.
Yeah.
If you boil it all the way down, at
That's
some
it.
point, one of the methods requires the trust that you are the person who you say you are at the point of application.
That's right.
And it cannot be verified.
And if some of those things are, and this is the reason why, if some of those things are in a weird space, it can be extremely difficult to obtain those IDs. I learnt this last year when I needed to get my passport, and that was a surprisingly complicated process. Not, partially due to the fact that my mother doesn't have a valid passport at the moment, and has multiple legal surnames depending on what part of her life you're looking at. Her birth certificate is different, her marriage certificate is different, and her current legal name is different.
Yeah.
So that that meant when there were bumps in the process of me getting my passport, it wasn't because my ID was no good. It was actually because my mother's ID was extremely, not sketchy, but strange.
It was extremely complicated by comparison.
That's it. And it took a lot of, and basically I had to provide a chain of paperwork showing why her name had changed multiple times. Before they will be like, yes, okay, we are satisfied that this person is who they say they are, and we have verified that they are indeed your mother, therefore we have now, that everything now makes sense as a whole.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yes, so that's the thing. ID cards are a must in the UK. Yeah, well, that's the thing. We don't have one. And if you say to a lot of people, as soon
But
as
it's
you
also
say,
a case of you need to issue that at birth
yeah, and this is the thing.
to verify that
Yeah,
the
but
kind of thing.
the idea of state ID is a dirty word to a lot of people because they'd be like, "What is this? Papers, please?" And it's just like, "Yeah, I know, but it solves a lot of problems, man. You know, it's not a bad idea." So yeah,
And also, at the same time, that ID should be digital and should also contain your digital right to work, your digital right to residency.
that's it. Ultimately, we live in a world that is complicated enough that there has to be a surefire method of proving who you are now, because otherwise, you know, like it or not, you can get stuck in a situation where you're unable to engage in any kind of systems. And so therefore, if you're going to make these systems mandatory, which they fundamentally are, then you have to make them accessible. So yeah, this is the same issue of just like making all government services online or pushing them online and shutting down telephone services and shutting down local libraries and stuff like that. If you force everything to be online, then online becomes an essential service. Therefore, online services must become a human right, which everyone is entitled to at no cost.
Yeah, that's...
Now we start getting into that conversation. You know, we're deviating here, but this is where we're landing now. Is that if you
and so much of that can be serviced by having local libraries.
Yeah,
Having local post offices.
Local libraries solve so much of this problem by just making these services available for free at your local library. So you don't have to provide everyone with high-speed broadband free of charge. You can say, no, it's online only, but you can go to your local library and use online services for free there.
Yeah, on devices that function at a usable speed.
Yeah.
With a connection that's actually functioning.
Yeah.
Because we have guaranteed all of these steps in this chain.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
None of this works in the manner that we're currently describing.
No. But that we're saying that this is
how it should be
ultimately
working.
somewhat necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the direction that we need to move into. But yeah, this is the problem at the moment. Everyone wants part of it, but is unwilling to do the work required to get there. The UK government wants the Online Safety Act, but is unwilling to provide the services required to support the Online Safety Act. It's like if the government wants Online Safety Act and wants to verify that people are adults before accessing adult material, fine, but you've got to provide a service that services that.
Yeah.
You can't just leave it to the companies and say, you guys figure this out, because what we're going to end up with is private companies with unfathomable amounts of data on private citizens that has no checks and balances. You know, like Persona and all these companies, I don't know what country they're actually based in, but are they getting checked out by the EU? We're not even in the EU anymore. Can we rely on the Data Protection Act anymore? I don't even know.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah. I'm not against their vision. I'm against their method. So yeah. The problem with the digital ID was what was presented was a bad idea. Yeah, I don't know the details of it, but
I didn't pay any attention to what was presented because I saw this is being presented, and then next day this has been rescinded, and I was like, okay,
yeah,
I'm not going to pay attention to that.
Yeah, apparently some libraries charge for using the internet. That's terrible. They shouldn't. Yeah, and if they're charging it, presumably that's because they are short on funds and need to raise more money. In which case, they should be getting better funding. But yeah, I use Yachty for age verification. Yeah, so
yeah, service like that as well, because that is
okay. So that sounds really interesting actually, because I was because PlayStation use Yachty, and because I heard of Yachty like yesterday, because I was talking about this in other places, and someone was like, oh, PlayStation is requiring age verification, and I was like, I wonder who they're using, and they were using Yachty, and the first responses I got were that Yachty were this super sketchy organization and stuff like that. However, if they're using ISO whatever that is and Type 2 certifications whatever that is, and undergoes annual penetration testings and participates in HackerOne bug bounty programs, that sounds pretty good to me. So yeah, does that make them trustworthy? I don't know, but it's certainly like if they're doing all of that, it certainly sounds like they're making efforts to be as trustworthy as can be possible for a private entity holding large amounts of data. And this is the thing, a lot of this is showing good faith. And this is a problem.
Yachty is the firm that powers the Citizen card, which is one of the multiple ID cards you can get at 16.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah. Because this is the thing, this is what we're lacking at the moment, is a show of good faith. This is why Discord are being absolutely slammed and why Persona are being absolutely slammed, because we have not seen any kind of show of good faith. If anything, we've seen quite the contrary, where they're just asking for more data and they're asking people to re-verify. And when people express doubts, they say, you don't know what you're talking about, we're going to use AI, it's going to be great. And they're not addressing any of the core issues. Whereas, like, if a service like Yachty is saying, look, we're a private organization.
I think they're a Quango.
A Quango. What's a Quango?
Quasi-autonomous non-governmental organisation.
I've heard that term before, but I don't know what it means. So, well, a quasi-autonomous non-government organisation.
Yes.
Okay. So this. Elaborate. I think I can understand what that means from the context, but I'm not going to try and explain it.
In the same way as the NHS is not the government.
Yeah.
But the NHS is the government for all intensive purposes.
Yeah.
It's in the same way as, like,
in the US, the US IRS isn't a government division, is it?
As far as I'm aware, it is technically separated.
Yeah.
But it's
similar kind of situation. It's not a government branch, but it goes hand in hand with the government. Kind of the same with the NHS. They are not a branch of the government, but they are operated by the
kind of thing. It's kind of that thing, and I think it's similar for Yachty in the sense of they are functionally the government's 16 plus ID branch.
Interesting.
But they are independent.
Yeah.
Hence the quasi-autonomous, but all of their funding comes from government by way of commercial contract, as opposed to government funding.
Yeah, okay. So Leftfield says Yachty is not a Quango. So yeah, perhaps they're not a Quango in the technical sense. However, if a large amount of their funding and a large amount of their customer base is government-based, they're not technically a Quango, but they are functioning in a similar aspect. However, that also means that if they were a Quango, then that would imply that there is responsibility and or accountability there. And if they're not a Quango, that means there is no responsibility or accountability. But the fact that the government trusts them to do all of this
certainly
is a good sign.
Yeah,
because that's the problem. In this, we don't really have any assurances. But if I was talking about a lot of red flags earlier on, this would be a green flag. This is showing that if they have been doing this and they are providing these services and that's been going well, that seems to be a good sign.
Yeah. Because it's literally a government approved ID.
Yeah.
From Yachty with that, but yeah.
Yeah, fully private, commercially funded.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I had quite go backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly in the sense of I don't think the implication was that they're literally a Quango, but
I also had what a Quango meant backwards.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I had it is that they, yes.
Okay. Yeah, our terminology is wrong, but our inference is correct. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a case of yes, certainly, like you've got the citizen card from them, which is a government approved ID that you can use also as a digital ID to prove your age.
Yeah. Graham has a lot of faith in the government because I have to, basically, because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that all governments can be trusted. However, certainly the UK government has not so far fallen so low that we just believe that they're building like, don't get me wrong, our government is less than perfect right now and has been less than perfect in the past, but we're not in the US's situation where the government can be assumed only to be hostile at this point.
But it is also partially the case of, if they already have this data, if the government already has this data, it doesn't actually make any difference if they are providing the age verification.
That's it.
Because they already have the data.
The government already knows who I am. They already have access to my driving license and my passport data. So, like, leveraging that knowledge that they already have doesn't change anything. We're not granting them any additional access to our lives. That's the thing here. So it's not so much that we trust the government, it's just so much of the fact of we are utilizing them because they already have our data, and they will continue to have our data because they need to have our data because driving license, passport, etc., etc. That's the difference, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, apparently it's been since 1999.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as bad as the US. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not going to get into that right here. However, the US government is a hostile entity. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyway, yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. I didn't realise it had been around for. I didn't realise it had been around for quite that long.
Yeah,
because I remember seeing them in the early 2000s. But yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting to know because, like I said, my first exposure to Yachty was yesterday, and that was just some Reddit post saying that they're super sketchy and stuff like that. By all means, it sounds like they might actually be the least worst option here because they are.
Yeah, I'm certainly also not inferring because I have not got the access to do any sort of checks or what have you, nor do I have the professional skills to do such checks.
Yeah.
But simply a case of by them existing since 1999.
Yeah.
Or at least this form of ID existing since 1999, being accepted by the police, the Home Office, the Security Industry Authority, etc., at least infers a degree of non-shittiness.
Yeah. Their system seems to be working, and it seems like they have not been hacked yet, and they actively take steps to build up their security because, as it was pointed out, they have this security certification, they actively do penetration tests, and they have active bug bounties, and the bug bounties are literally a come at me bro thing, which is all really good signs. And what makes this interesting is that it means that there are third-party identity verification services out there that we could say can be trusted. So if Discord are like, look, we have to be doing this age, at the very least in the UK, Discord has to do age verification. This is not up for debate. Right now, they have to do it. So it's a case of, okay, well, Yachty seems like a service that we can at least trust more so than the rest of them. So that means that there are entities out there that at least are not awful. Which is a start, because up until this conversation, I was not aware of any entities that could be vaguely trusted.
Nice. Huh, yeah, okay. But Yachty as an entity does KYC, which is Know Your Customer, and AML, anti-money laundering, solutions for financial services.
Yeah.
And as a part of that, does sanctions and watch list checking and politically exposed persons checking.
Yeah.
And it's at least face value at their own advertising material. They also kind of know the questions.
Yeah.
At the very least, they seem to know the questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. It might be interesting to look up what Persona look like. You're assessing this and being like, as a layperson, what do I think of this company? Do the same thing with Persona now. Let's go to Persona's website and let's look at what's on their homepage. What credentials did they boast about? Because that Persona's website might have exactly the same credentials on it. In which case, how do we know that Yachty is any more trustworthy if Persona well, I mean, that's the thing is
Because but to
Well,
me, at the very least,
Persona got owned this week, so you know
the
that's
reason
not a
why
good sign.
Persona is different and infers, to me,
Hmm.
less institutional backing from it is their first thing is, we're recommended by OpenAI.
Yeah,
And then it's like, we're used by Udemy, whatever that online learning
Yeah.
platform is, that is known to have been sued by so many creators for stealing all of their content from other platforms.
I see. Right, not a good start then. Yeah,
Like Udemy,
yeah,
the only thing I know about Udemy is they steal all of their content from other platforms.
yeah. So who are Discord using for age verification? Don't know yet. All I saw was that they've apparently ended their partnership with Persona in the UK. I don't know anything else at this part. I've not done further research. So like, this is not, we're kind of just spitballing here because, you know, like this is an annoying conversation deep in the weeds, but like, this isn't going away, which is why I want to understand this, because this problem isn't going away. And like, I'm also kind of mad about it as well, because like, and the other reason about how this affects me is that like last year when I talked about VR chat having age verification, they used Persona as well. I didn't realize this, but last year when VR chat rolled out their age verification, I did the verification and I provided ID, which it now turns out was to Persona, because I wanted to engage with that system in good faith, to be like, well, I'm an adult, I do not want to be in spaces with minors, therefore I'm going to get age verified so I can throw up the 18 verified flag and go into 18 plus instances and not worry that I might have some dork in a quest next to me. And now at this point, I'm looking back on that and I'm super annoyed. I feel slightly betrayed that I age verified in good faith. And it turns out I provided my ID to Persona, and I don't know what they were doing with that or whether it was safe with them, you know. So this is the thing. And I want to know what services we might vaguely be able to trust. Because when the next people come out and say, we're now having to do age verification, if they say, we're using Yachty, at this point now I can be like, okay, well, you know, I've done some preliminary research on them, and as far as age verification goes, they seem to be not awful. You know, at the very least, we've not seen any evidence that they're awful. You know. So, yeah.
I think also just the difference as well, though, is Persona's international. And Yachty is certainly, at least for the stuff it was exposing, there is much more UK focused.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just going to look different.
Graham will go away in 10 minutes. Will I? What's occurring? What does this mean?
Did you say you had to leave at 5?
6.
Oh, okay. I wondered if that's what they were referring to.
I think that's what they meant. Yeah. Yeah.
Graham will disappear in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He'll just be yanked out of existence.
What makes this especially alarming is the gap between what users think they're consenting to, a simple age check, and what's actually happening behind the scenes, says Leftfield. The vulnerabilities here aren't just technical, they're architectural and ethical. Persona has built what researchers are calling a surveillance pipeline and left the blueprints lying in the open. Yeah, this sums up the problem really well. And this is the problem, you know, and like, this is the issue, is just like, you know, like, people often talk about how the UK has been a surveillance state for a long time because of, you know, CCTV and stuff like that. But the issue is like, when you have CCTV on every corner, you need someone to go back through those videos and look through that and say, okay, we believe a perpetrator walked down this street at 10 p.m. last Friday. So we're going to go back through the CCTV footage and see if we can see evidence that they were there and that they did a crime or whatever. That's okay, fine. You know, that doesn't seem too awful to me. However, stay with me a little bit. However, when you look at what we're seeing today in the year 2026, when we're looking at systems like Flock and systems like Palantir, what we're now seeing is a system where an operator goes up to a computer and says, I'm looking for a person who matches this description in the system. And because all of these cameras have been doing facial tracking and ID on anyone that they look at, it's now going to find what the AI black box believes matches that description. And there's now an ability to dig in so much deeper that it's a wildly different proposition now, if that makes sense. Before, it required someone to look at a tape and go, okay, was a person there and do I think they matched that? That's kind of different to a system that can automatically track. If it sees a face on a camera, it can now match that face to every other scene that they have also been seen in automatically. And we can now say, okay, I saw that face. Computer, please tell me what this person's daily routine is. And the computer can now take a reasonable swing at this person's daily routine because of the amount of times the face has popped up on camera. That's a very different situation to the ability to roll back through CCTV footage and check if a person was in a place at a time. That's why. That's the thing, and that's why I think what we're looking at today in 2026 isn't the same as just simply the UK having cameras on every street corner for the past 20 years. End piece.
Yeah. It also, I guess, isn't directly related to it, but it's also the case of it just requires that person's existence to not be a crime as well.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah.
Kind of, if you've got that degree of ability to coalesce information, if you've got that ability to draw it up, you now just make their life a crime.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You make their mere existence a perpetration of harm to society.
Yeah, and also people having doorbell cameras and stuff.
I don't like that in the slightest.
Hold on for a second, because this is where we get into, because I said CCTV then, but the thing about camera systems and closed circuit television is it's a case of okay, who has access to this? And if an original doorbell camera was just someone who had a private security camera that was covering their front driveway kind of thing, and a policeman could walk up to that house and say, we believe a crime happened on this street, we would like to see if your camera saw anything at this time, and if they have a warrant and the person if the person consents or the police have a warrant, they can look at that footage. But then the problem with modern doorbell cameras now is when you look at systems like Ring, is that you've now automatically enrolled into a system that effectively the government has access to. It's no longer closed circuit, it's now quite open to the entire government. And again, that you now have a huge network and coalescence of information.
The difference as well is there's no requirement for probable cause.
Yeah.
There's no requirement for reasonable suspicion. There's just a requirement for I don't like you.
Yeah. And this is the thing, is just this is why I'm trying to condense my thoughts to explain where I'm going with this, and okay, I'm saying a lot of words here. So what about any of this, And yeah, I think the point is where I'm going with this is that I'm not against cameras. I'm not against these things at face value. What I'm against is the way that we're now seeing them being leveraged. It's not that the things exist; it's what they are now being used for.
Often half.
So yeah. But yes, I think I've just drifted horrendously off of any kind of topic, so I'm no idea where I'm going with this now. But yes. But yes, at the very least, I think what we've discovered is interesting. I think the most interesting part of this conversation was looking at Yachty versus Persona. It's very interesting to see the two very different ways that those websites have been presented.
I think
that
also
does reinforce the idea that Yachty do seem to be more trustworthy than Persona at face value. And that's simply what you can see by looking at their websites.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that.
No? Okay.
I would go as far as do not seem to be intending to be actively harmful. If that makes sense in the inverse, in the sense of Persona's MO appears to be gather as much data about everyone and build surveillance on everyone.
Yes.
And that is what they describe. Whereas Yeti appear to say, help you verify your age online.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that makes them more or less trustworthy. I'm simply stating that they appear to sell a different goal.
Yes. And again, that
And
ties in.
you can assign your own emotional values
Yeah.
to those statements.
That's it. And for me, I then come in and bring in my good faith argument is that it certainly seems that Yachty seem to be approaching from a much stronger position of good faith. And like obviously, good faith isn't worth anything in the literal sense, but it's a start. It at least means that they are at least pretending to be trustworthy, whereas Persona seem to be behaving like a comic villain organization, quite literally. So yeah, look at who funds Persona. Oh yeah, for real. You know,
I don't actually know who funds them, but I know that they have received funding from Palantir.
Yeah, they have heavy investment from Peter Thiel, nay Palantir.
Was it from Thiel directly?
I don't know about him direct, but I mean Palantir is his thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
only because it's just fractionally different if it's his company doing it to if it's him doing it.
Him doing it personally.
Because
yeah.
if it's him doing it personally, he could take over that company as well and run both of them.
Yes. Yeah.
By way of donation,
Yeah.
whereas that's dramatically harder to do through your company.
True. Although at the very least, again, the optics remain the same. Though you know the practice might be slightly different, but the optics remain the same. Again, when we say that one looks more trustworthy than the other, we're trying to do this on a very okay, look, we're taking people at face value here. Let's take people at face value. Let's take them on their word for a moment.
If
Persona if Persona fails the sniff test when we're taking them at their word, imagine how much worse it could be.
But also, I'm intentionally phrasing it the way I'm phrasing it to infer that everyone involved in this conversation is bad.
Yeah.
I am assuming guilt until proven innocent. The inverse, which is what should be happening for people, is innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
The problem is we do not seem to be in that system.
Yeah. Apparently, Robin Hood says he personally funds it. So
if that's the case, then it's a function. It becomes his company.
Yeah. If that is accurate and he is personally funding it, then certainly that makes the situation much worse. However, again, bearing in mind that we're having this conversation based on observable information, and right now, you say he personally funds it. You are a random person on the internet. I'm not saying I disbelieve you. However, I'm currently working with observable information here. So yeah, I'm sure we could pull up evidence of the evidence of that. However, right now, I'm speaking in an extremely guarded manner because I can only work with the observable information. So yeah, and one of the things that really frustrates me about conversations like this and looking at information is that the well of discussion is extremely murky. Like I said, what we've discovered is that Yachty seems to be not awful based on what we are looking at in this conversation. Whereas yesterday, some random guy on Reddit said that they were terrible and incredibly sketchy. So I have extremely conflicting information there, So that's the problem. This is what we're trying to navigate here, is random people saying that they're terrible and awful versus what they claim. It's one word versus another, so we have to try and figure out where our middle ground is. The scary part is that even good companies in these spaces could be bought at the drop of a hat and repurposed for evil. This is true. This is true.
Apparently, the most recent public valuation for Persona was $2 billion USD.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. Just kind of, yeah. This thing, in a way, obviously, you want the entity to be an unsellable entity, which ultimately links back to you want it to be, in our case, HMPO. You know, you want it to be DVLA, because at least without dramatic changes to so many checks and balances, DVLA can't get purchased.
Yeah.
Like, imagine some company rocking up, going to the UK government, "Hi, we want to buy the DVLA."
Yeah. So this just brings us back to the fact that it's just like, it's almost like state ID is actually a good idea, because it's, you know, the alternatives are, it's the best of a bad situation. If we have to have this data, if we have to have this, that's the only thing that will actually, that's the least awful option for it. So yeah.
As far as I can tell, yeah.
Yeah. And and of course, you know, there's an argument to be made that we don't have to have it, but unfortunately, that's not the world we're currently living in. You know, like I would still contend that rather than having to prove age online, it is up to parents to actually keep an eye on what their kids are doing and who they're talking to on the internet. However, that doesn't seem to be a fight that we're winning at the moment.
Yeah. But like, come on. How much did your parents know about what you were doing on the internet? How much could they have known or understood?
So, see, this is
How much could they have understood?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean,
I say that not because I say that your argument is invalid, but I'm kind of going.
Sure, it's a valid point to make. So let's interrogate that. Okay, so when I was 11 years old, I was unsupervised on the internet, and I was playing GTA, which was an 18+ game. So, yeah, that's where we're starting off from. However, the problem is that world doesn't exist anymore.
That's not my point.
Okay.
I was going to loop on to that point.
Okay.
It's a sense of.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll finish my interrogation and then you can counter it.
Yeah.
So I was unsupervised on the internet as a kid and played violent video games as a kid.
Yeah.
However, those violent video games were 320 by 240 pixel graphics. We're talking, you know, we did not have 4K definition blood and viscera of someone's limb being torn off.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't what we were looking at. We were not having significant. We were not doing significant. We were not doing war simulations that would actually give someone PTSD of Nam and stuff like that. And on the internet, the barrier for entry was high enough that, broadly speaking, you needed to be savvy to be there in the first place, and other people had a vested interest in being there in the first place. And that's not to say that there wouldn't have been bad actors at the time, but because you needed to be fairly savvy to be there in the first place, the chances of you being unwittingly deceived were far, far lower. So while the problem certainly would have existed, the risk was far lower than it would be today, where the barrier for entry into dangerous spaces is extremely low, making the risk profile significantly higher.
Yeah, my point wasn't going to be about how the internet has changed, because I think that's a slightly separate point. So yeah, it was more the fact, it was going to be the fact that if, as we regularly say, the average user doesn't know anything, how's the average user going to know anything about their child doing it if their child knows something? All their child has to do is know something about using a computer, and they now know more about it than their parents do.
Yeah.
if you can hide all of your internet activity from your parents by the wonders of, oh, mum, I right-clicked.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if that's the level of technical ability
Yeah.
that hides everything,
Yeah.
parents don't stand a chance when they know nothing.
Yeah, because like my idea of engaging with your child and being like, oh, what games are you playing? They're like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm like, cool. You know, do you have friends on there? Yes, I do. It's like, oh, cool. Who are your friends on there? You know, do you know who they are? You should, you know, do you talk on voice and stuff like that? It's like, cool. You know, this all works on the assumption that there is a two-way street of trust there, which is not possible in many situations. So, like my vision of this is the parent's responsibility assumes that the parent can understand what the child is doing, because if you say to the child, "What are you doing on your computer, son?" and they say, "I'm playing Roblox," and dad's just like, "I don't know what the hell a Roblox is, but I'm glad you're having fun." That's the reality of that situation. So I can see where at that point I've made I've misunderstood the asymmetry of that relationship.
That's kind of that's
Sorry, Dan has just said, please accept my hostile US dollars. Thank you for the $2.
oh, very good, excellent, yeah. But yes, it's that was kind of my point. It's the fact of obviously, man, what the hell? Imagine explaining that to your parents and also them actually understanding it and then knowing what the questions are.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
God.
Because this is the thing, like, you know, us internet savvy people, we joke about things where, like, if I'm laughing at a meme and I have to explain the joke to my mother, and it's a case of like, okay, there are 3 layers of meme lore that you need to understand in order to perceive this joke. You know, there are, you know, we are several layers deep in deep lore of the internet to understand why this picture is funny. You know, how on earth are they expected to understand the stuff that you can do in the video game? You know, so that's the thing, is like, and I'm not saying that this can't be done. You know, my charitable read of parents talking to their children and asking, do you talk to people online? Who are you friends with?
It's also the fact that the kids want to share that. Because
well, that's it. You know, I'm working on the assumption that if the parent can say, you know, look, I will trust you online if you are transparent with me and tell me who you're talking to, and then I will leave you alone. I'm not going to ask what you talk about. I need to know enough information to know that you're safe, kind of thing. That's the charitable read. Yeah. And it, you know, as soon as we step back from the charitable read, it becomes a lot more complicated than that. Yeah. So in which case, now we come into the conversation where, you know, maybe social media bans aren't such a terrible idea. You know, because, yeah. That's a truth that people don't really like to hear, but might not be far off the mark. That maybe just banning kids from social media is a good idea because it's just not a safe place to be when you're a kid.
Is YouTube social media?
So, okay, we're pushing into that conversation now of just ban social media. However, yeah, so is YouTube social media? You can ban them from the comments section, because at that point it's a one-way communication.
But how does that help anything?
Oh,
my question wasn't saying that YouTube is bad.
Yeah.
That wasn't my implication. My implication was, fuck social media.
Yeah, I mean,
if we're talking about banning kids from social media, okay, are we getting rid of them from Xbox Live?
Again, you can solve this by this can be solved by this is why Nintendo multiplayer games have no player communication.
Yeah,
because it just immediately solves this problem.
Yeah,
for them.
But that's what I'm kind of just like. You expand that out and start looking at the implications of that. You're like, does this mean they can't play multiplayer video games?
Well, just no communication in games.
Yeah, but I'm just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And right? Does this mean they can't watch videos online? Because I can have a big following online and have a parasocial interaction. But how's that different to TV? Well, the fact I can watch it any time. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that I was just like, oh, that suddenly becomes a much bigger conversation.
Well, I mean, if you take away their ability to communicate, okay, that sounds really bad when you say it out of context. If you take away their ability to communicate with people, if you take away their ability to talk to strangers on the internet, a lot of the problem is solved? Question mark? You know.
Yeah. And it's just kind of
So yeah, they can also post. Take away their ability to post. You know, by all means, kids should be able to watch videos. Kids should be able to watch age-appropriate content on YouTube. YouTube already has a system for age-appropriate content. How effective that is a matter of debate. However, there is at least an attempt to age-restrict videos that are not appropriate for minors. So that ability is already there. The only thing that makes it social media is the ability for them to interact. If you take away that ability, they can still watch videos, they can still learn. They could still learn how to fix computers by watching my videos. They just can't read the comments or post in the comments, which would enable them to engage with strangers, you know.
But you're a stranger in the video.
But they can't talk to me. Which means, you know, I can't create a relationship with them if they cannot talk to me. I mean, I guess you could have a channel that could theoretically start giving veiled instructions and be like, you watcher who cannot speak to me, you're my loyal fan, I need you to burn down the school, kind of thing. But like, you're gonna need to be pretty fucking transparent about that. You're gonna get, you know, like, I think you're gonna get caught. And also at that point, that's not the child's problem anymore, that's now a me problem, you know. If Frank told me to burn down the school, I think that's a me problem, you know. Elsagate, yeah. Elsagate could happen, but that's a moderation issue, and that becomes, you know, that becomes YouTube's responsibility at that point to have some level of moderation on their platform. Because the problem with Elsagate was that those were videos that any human could have looked at and said, this is intended for adults, and it was mistakenly flagged as child-appropriate content. That was a moderation issue. That wasn't a systemic issue.
Yeah.
And like, I'm grossly simplifying that because it was a systemic issue that grew from incentives. You know, people were making vast amounts of money by making... Well, no, actually, I'm not going to get into that because it's too complicated to summarize. However, that was still a moderation issue. That was not an issue of kids interacting with people, you know. Gotta clip that. That's why I didn't look into the camera when I said it, you know. Also, hello Paige, by the way. I am set up. We're gonna be wrapping up before 6 o'clock. I am set up.
I have been set up. Yeah. This was all a setup.
Yeah.
I've been had.
Yeah. Broadcast TV never managed to age-gate content and never will. I mean, it's age-gated by the time of broadcast, I guess. You know, like this is what the Watershed was.
It's also to a degree gated by what's acceptable by the populace to be shown to everyone.
Yeah.
To a degree, there is a social pressure on all of it to be things that they won't receive too many complaints about.
Yeah, and it's also like, I think this is the thing about video content, is that it's far easier to visually understand. We were talking about parents not being able to understand what their kids were doing on the internet. However, when we talk about TV and we talk about YouTube, it's pretty easy for a parent to be able to supervise their child, look at what they're watching and be like, yeah, that seems fine. Or look at what they're watching and be like, no, you know. That doesn't take a degree of technical understanding. That's a case of, you know, if little Timmy is watching Scream 5, then you should probably tell them they shouldn't be watching that, you know, whatever. So to that extent, I would say YouTube can be social media, but also that's a solvable problem. They have systems already in place to remove the social media aspects of YouTube without actually banning YouTube. That's a solvable problem. There are some platforms where if you remove the interaction, there is nothing left. So, for example, Facebook, say, or, I guess, I would say maybe Twitter or, or Twitter-esque platforms. Interaction is the only purpose of the platform. So, yeah, maybe you should just ban kids from it. Why do kids got to be talking there anyway? Or maybe we build platforms that are child-focused, and you are building a system that is designed to keep adults out. Like, I don't know, I was never on Bebo, was it?
Spanish to go?
No, it was a social media platform that was very child-focused. Similar era to MySpace. You graduated from this platform into MySpace. I think it was Bebo.
No idea.
Yeah, it was a very early social media platform, but it was it was primarily used by school kids, and so and that was kids' first social media platform, and that was generally considered fairly safe because it was mostly school kids and teachers supervising them. There were a large number of teachers who were there either in the open or in disguise, just keeping an eye on things. It was Bebo, yeah. However, we're talking, Bebo, where was I? This was before I moved down to Dorset.
Bebo would have been...
We're talking 2007.
2007 to...
Yeah, sold to AOL and then died, apparently. Yeah. Facebook would have eaten their lunch, so, yeah. Because Facebook basically ate everyone's lunch, including MySpace. So,
oh God, I remember back in the day, MySpace having weird, broken profile privacy settings.
Yeah, unlimited scroll, ban it. I don't think that's the problem with children using social media. That's just a problem with social media in general. I would possibly argue that children are more vulnerable to it because they need to be told that it's bad. But then on the other hand, there are vast numbers of adults who are also a slave to the unlimited scroll and don't seem to understand that. There's a meme that I've seen online a couple of times where everyone watches Lord of the Rings and watches Merry being taken in by the Palantir and wanting to gaze into the Palantir, knowing that it will do him psychic damage, and people go, I will never use the cursed item that does psychic damage to me. They say doom scrolling on the mobile phone that's doing 20 psychic damage to them every single day, So, yeah. Thing is, you're going to force companies to make kids' websites. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that, if a company made I'm just saying that perhaps that is a thing that could exist.
I just don't know how it would survive.
Yeah, or does it need to exist? That's the question. Yeah. I think I might go, I think it might, I don't think it, okay, so here's a radical thought then. Do kids need to have, if we're suggesting that you should ban kids from social media, let's interrogate that question as well, because when I was young, when was I taught? So I was talking on forums, bulletin board forums, so PHP, BB forums and stuff like that. I was chatting to other teenagers on the internet, on forums, when I was, let's see, that would have been year 8, year 9 onwards, perhaps. No, maybe year 9, year 10. So how old would I have been? So I would have been like, I don't know, 14, maybe 15 or something like that, I guess. And I built friendships there that went on to last for 15 years. I'm still friends with some of those people today. And when, I was friends with those people for years. And when I was 17, I drove to a meetup with those people, and went on hiking trips with those people. And these were friendships that were forged when I was a teenager on the internet on bulletin boards. Would I deny modern children the ability to forge the same friendships as that? But like I said,
It's just not the same.
the internet isn't the same. Could that even be possible anymore? So yeah. Shut it all down. Yeah. We've built the Torment Nexus. Yeah.
From the book, do not build the Torment Nexus.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So like, I think that's the question. Is like I look on this and I say I'm suggesting that we ban kids from social media, and I think that would be a good thing. But that would be to deny them the privileges that I had as a kid. But if it's not safe anymore, if we can't do it anymore, if it's
then
now
punish the adults.
with age verification checks, where we will have to give up all of our personal detail to.
But the adults are the ones who are supposed to be responsible. They are children. That is why they are not responsible. That is why they are unsafe, because they are not responsible.
But now I was responsible and I was safe, and I'm now being punished.
Yeah, that's the burden of being an adult.
Yeah.
You have to take responsibility for the children who cannot take responsibility.
And I guess in the meantime, I can only hope that Discord select Yachty as their next partner for age verification, because they seem to be the least awful.
But like viewing it as a societal problem, not a technological problem.
Yeah.
We, the adults, the elders, have the responsibility to the children to see that they do not come to harm.
Yeah.
And
education. Yeah.
Yeah.
However, just like the problem is that we're so far out of phase for that will take charitably reading maybe a decade to solve, and we don't have that time right now because kids are in danger on the internet. Something does need to be done. Roblox is evidence of this. There's not a doubt in my mind that there are plenty of other platforms where kids are being endangered by bad actors. This is a problem that needs to be solved, and we need to find a solution now, a solution that will take 10 years to come to fruition is not viable right now. I do agree, education is the way forward, and there should be more education. We do need adults to understand what kids are using the internet for and what the hell a Roblox is. However, that will take time, and we're already at a critical mass.
Yeah.
So yeah, Roblox also never gave a flying fuck about it. This is true, yeah, and so this is one of the reasons why. That's a valid response actually. So let's interrogate that. Like I mentioned how VR chat is allegedly has a similar problem. I say allegedly, I have not seen it myself, but I would imagine, and there are YouTubers who are currently doing deep dives on this. I would imagine that you can find evidence of adults interacting with minors on VR chat in a unsavory manner. There's not a doubt in my mind that is a thing that is happening. However, VR chat is actively currently pursuing this and is trying to build a system to resolve this problem. Meanwhile, Roblox's response to this was to try and get the YouTuber who exposed them taken down. So,
oh God.
So perhaps this says a thing or two about the good faith approach of the platform.
Did you also hear the follow-up about Roblox?
No.
So for Roblox, it is possible for you to create a child account linked to an adult account.
Okay.
That child account then cannot accept friend requests.
Yeah.
And can only play with friends.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that would make sense.
That was a comment that was made in kind of the thread where I saw the story, and obviously has access to purchase stuff using the adult's payment details.
Sure.
But it says you want to buy this. The request has been sent to the parent account.
Yeah. Seems fine.
Seems fine. Seems logical.
Okay.
The problem is that apparently the child can change the age on their child account, and when the child gets from being under 13 to over 13, the adult can no longer stop them from accepting friend requests.
That's not a lot of use then, is it?
And also something else changes.
Yeah.
Right, fine.
Like 13 plus is a significant age barrier in terms of how the law works. However, if we're talking about child safety, 13 is still a child. So yeah.
Yeah, and then something about if they hit 15, it then automatically removes the parent from the account or something.
Okay.
The problem is the child can apparently
Change their age.
auto-trigger this and remove themselves from their parent's
Yeah.
account.
So they can just go to their settings and say, oh, it was my birthday today. I've just turned 15. Honest. And just escape that system.
Apparently.
Yeah. I mean, this also requires
And-
the parent to not be observing this and not see that this has occurred.
Yeah, but it's more the fact of the child can just do that. Boom, it's gone from the account.
Yeah.
Tough luck. They now have to make a new account for it to be a child account again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also,
and then they can say, no, Daddy, I can't make a new account because all of my stuff is on this account, even though it's now broken.
all of the stuff
yeah.
that you've paid for with your money.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of that. Yeah. And it's just like, what?
Yeah.
But also a fact of just kind of stuff like that. And it's just like, what's the point then? You're clearly intentionally building this system to
yeah.
pretend.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing. This is why I place a lot of emphasis on good faith, because I know that good faith isn't worth anything in the practical sense. However, we can use this to judge who seems to be at least trying to solve this problem and who seems to be doing the minimum amount required to not be sued 6 ways to Sunday. And it seems like Roblox is not approaching this in good faith, because that's the thing, is as soon as it's 13 plus, it's no longer covered by what's the US child safety thing? Is it
COPA or something?
COPA, that's it, yeah. COPA, yeah. COPA. Yeah, as soon as you hit 13 plus, COPA no longer applies. That's the significance of that bit. So they've built a system that allows them to wear the air of having a child and parental control system, whereas in practice it doesn't actually function in any useful way, it seems. So yeah, whereas yeah, again, by comparison, VR chat, and I'm not going to bat for VR chat or anything here. I'm just using it as a basis of comparison because it's a similar place where you have a high degree of social interaction, even more so, and you have adults and minors interacting, and they also have a similar problem kind of thing. So by comparison, they are rapidly trying to move into a space where they are aggressively trying to encourage adults. We need you all to get 18 plus verified and go and make 18 plus spaces where you can do whatever you want and know that there are going to be no children there. It is widely known on VR chat that public instances are a dumpster fire, and you will have some idiot with a Quest on next to you screaming in your ear, which is why any serious VR chat user is not going to public instances. However, the problem is that bad actors will pursue those places, which is where the problems occur. So yeah. Yeah. Right.
Christ, what a mess.
It is a bit of a mess, isn't it? But this is kind of why I feel like we have to have this conversation, because this is the mess of our time right now. And it's slowly been building up for years, this problem. And I think this has been a long time coming, and we're hitting critical mass.
I think from kind of looking at it as someone who was on there for a long time at a who has been there for a reasonably long time and has been on the internet from a reasonably young age, is I think it's also the fact of the monetization difference and the segregation of content. Like, today it's way easier to randomly wander into content that isn't appropriate for someone to go look at, and so on. It's way harder for someone to keep that feed clean, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas back when I was but a wee lad, you had to go to a different website for it. It didn't cross-pollinate. It wasn't mixed in all in one place. You didn't have Reddit that was 98% porn.
Yeah.
kind of thing. That all wasn't all just mixed together on single platforms.
Yeah, this is to an extent a platform issue, and so I guess to a certain extent, part of a solution to beginning to dismantle this problem is to decentralize the internet again. And what I mean by decentralize is the internet as we know it today is centralized into big platforms, big social media websites, YouTube, Google, Facebook, Reddit, whereas back in my day, before the before Web 2.0, when it was just Web 1, back then you needed to know the addresses of websites. We had search engines, but it still required you had to very deliberately go in and opt into content, whereas now, with everything centralized into major platforms, it becomes increasingly difficult to keep the adult content separated without just scrubbing it off the internet. And at the moment, the current solutions are age gating with potentially untrustworthy companies or scrubbing the internet clean. And scrubbing the internet clean isn't a solution.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. So yeah.
Because it's also a case of it becoming, again, the tangent, but also just the fact of, it's the censorship thing again.
Yeah. Hence why you can't scrub the internet clean.
Yeah.
Not because not because of the technical difficulties of it, but because that's just simply that's not what you should be doing. That's just for multiple reasons that I won't bother delving into. There's no desire for that. So yeah. Any opinions on Nintendo releasing Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green on the Switch for $20? It's Nintendo. What did you expect?
I'd have been interested if they had been re-releases.
Yeah.
No.
Remakes.
Updates.
Yeah, no, apparently
re-envisionings.
Apparently they're running in an emulator.
Yeah. If they had taken those games and gone, here is the core gameplay, we have not affected the core gameplay loop, but we have gone, let's make it so it's not 160 pixels wide by 112 pixels tall. Let's make it so it's,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's crappy to charge $20 for ancient games. It's just like I'm not saying they should be free, but yeah, I think $20 for GBA games is pretty crap. But also, one more time, just like it's Nintendo. Why are you still buying this? Nintendo hurt you again and again and again and again, and you keep going back to them. Have you killed? Okay, we're still alive. Yeah. Nintendo will stop hurting you when you stop giving them your money. Simply pirate the game. Go and download RetroArch for free. Go and Google search Pokemon Fire Red ROM and download the game for free. Just play it for free.
Oh my god!
Oh, OG cartridges. Yeah, it's Pokemon. Of course they're going to be mega expensive.
Oh, there we go. That's way more sensible.
Wow, apparently you can... Oh, that might... maybe that's faulty, because that's... Yeah. Either that or they don't know what they have, but yeah.
Why?
Anyway, stop giving Nintendo your money, I'm begging you. Please. Just stop giving them your money. Anyway.
Yeah.
The city offer free public Wi-Fi here, but I noticed you can't comment or even read YouTube comments, which really takes away from the experience. Interesting. Yeah. Don't know how I feel about that, if it's free public Wi-Fi. Yeah, they're probably doing that out of some kind of, just like, not wanting to be responsible for stuff happening on their connection.
Yeah, I guess.
But I don't know. Yeah.
I was going to say, if it's just a side...
if it's free, you can't really complain. Yeah, I mean, this is complicated because that comes back to what we were talking about with free internet access at libraries and stuff like that. So I guess we've got to. I guess the problem is now we're asking the question of like, what are you entitled? If we're saying that internet access is a right, how much of the internet is a right? Do I have a right to do I have a right to be able to go to a public library and watch porn on the public library computers, you know? So I don't know. Like that's an extreme example. The obvious answer to that is no, that's not appropriate in a public space. However, but what about, you know, again, engaging with comments on YouTube videos and stuff like that, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends on who's providing it. Because if it's provided by the government, quote unquote, arguably it should only provide access to government services.
Yeah. Maybe.
That's what it provides. Here
Yeah.
is the access to the government services that are mandated by your government that you must have access to. Therefore, we have made access to this available for free.
If we're working on the assumption that we're forcing the government to make the internet free to anyone who walks into a library, then yes, I think such restriction is a bit like sort of, okay, you kind of neutered this to the point where it's perhaps not that sounds like malicious compliance to me. However, I don't know where I would draw the line.
Yeah. I mean that more in the sense of, you know,
that's an extreme
the
example,
quote-unquote legal minimum
Yeah.
is it must provide full, unrestricted, unmodified access to all of the government services.
Yeah, that is a minimum, yeah.
You know, that's the minimum, and people can choose to offer more or less than that
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of lines in the sand that we've discussed here, and I don't know exactly where I would draw all of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. See, it's keeping the poor from complaining about the government since they can only use the public Wi-Fi. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't really know why you need Wi-Fi to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Posters exist.
I suppose. But
Stones exist.
Yeah, when was the last time you looked at a poster on the street, though? You know, that's the thing, is if the public forum of discussion has moved on to these large central platforms like Facebook or Twitter or YouTube comment sections,
Bricks have an awful lot of space.
then, you know, if the forum of public discussion is now on these private platforms, do we not have a right to access those private platforms?
No, because they're private platforms.
Yeah, and now we get into the problem of, and again, so we need to dismantle this system where the public forum
Your shop fixes people's computers. Do people have a right to be in your shop because they fix computers and the computers are used to access the public forums? Or is it your shop and you choose who walks through your door?
There is certainly a place. There is a long beach on which we can draw a line in the sand. That is certainly one extreme end of it. Yes. So yeah. I'm reading chat.
I've enjoyed this conversation in sand. It's coarse and it's rough and it gets everywhere.
Yeah.
Also, hello, Wild Floor Lamp.
Yes, hello there, yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. If nothing else, I think we should all be making steps to decentralize ourselves and have less dependency on centralized platforms, which is not to say that you cannot use them, but we should all be taking steps to ensure that we are not reliant on them. So should one of them suddenly decide to have a heel turn, we can be like, okay, you know what? I'm out of here, you know. Because this was an interesting thing. This week, you know, with all the hoo-ha about Discord, I actually sat down and had a long, hard think and thought, you know, because I use Discord all day, every day. It is a huge part of my life. Is I'm on Discord all day, every day. And I was like, and when I actually sat down and thought about it, I was like, you know what? I could survive without it. I would need to reconnect to friend groups, but we can reconnect on other platforms. We can agree to meet in other places. You know, there are friend groups where I'm like, we can all agree that we're going to move on to Telegram. There are friend groups where I'm just like, you know, the Adamant IT Discord, we could make a Matrix server and agree to meet there or something like that. And
we can all agree to get Floorlamp to make a Matrix server.
So, you know, and apart from a couple of apart from like maybe 2, maybe 3 friend groups maximum, which could easily move to Telegram, TeamSpeak, or Matrix or wherever. All of the other interactions I do on Discord, I'm like, you know what? These don't rule my life. I will find new circles, another place, you know. So that's the thing. It's just while I would like to stay on Discord, but if Discord exploded, I'd survive.
I think the thing that amazes me and slightly saddens me is how much people don't have websites.
Yeah.
For big groups. Like, there are some big groups that I am members of, like 15,000 member groups. And there's not a website.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why not? Own a website, have a domain name, have it similar to the name of your group, so people can find you if your service explodes.
Yeah.
Because your website isn't going to go away. You can host that off a toaster in your bedroom, and people will find you, and the group will rebuild itself.
You know what? I need to remake the Adamant IT website. I've got most of it actually already done. I just need to actually push that to online. But maybe we should make an Adamant IT book forum and like just PHPBB or whatever the current trendy one is. No one will use it. I will probably look at it once a week. But actually say, you know what? Let's just do this on principle just so it exists. And
Okay.
You're looking at me in the sense of like, I don't know why you're looking at me because I'm the one who would be doing this. So yeah, I guess, but whatever.
But also
Yeah.
just like, yeah. But it's like, I guess, but also like, I don't know. I think my thing would be more about like hosting IRC in Kiwi or something like that. Because it is Discord, but not.
I want persistent chat. That's the thing. That's what puts me off about like TeamSpeak and IRC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is just I like persistent chat. That is the biggest innovation to chat rooms that has come in since.
I'll give you that's the thing I
Skype
like
days.
least about Discord.
Interesting, yeah. I mean that I guess you know what? Actually, that does. Yeah, you make a good point. Actually, yeah.
Because also I'm talking about an emergency service where Discord has exploded.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You are using it as a centralized location for people to find you again.
Yeah.
You're not using it as the
everything
replacement service.
Yeah.
You're using it as the location.
Yeah.
For people to find you
it's
again.
It's a fire rendezvous point. If everything explodes, this is where we'll meet and decide what to do from there. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a case of you can put a page on your website that says, hello, I have moved to this service now.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is the interesting thing.
It's
This
also
is
a case
why
of you have a YouTube channel and an audience.
It took me too long to do it, but one of the best things I did was when I actually set up a private vanity URL for the Discord link. I stopped putting the Discord link at the end of the videos was discord.gg/whatever the invite link is. And then at some point I realized, oh shit, if I lose that invite link, all of these videos are going to have a broken link in their end card. And so I set up adamantit.co.uk/Discord. Because I can change that. And if Discord explodes, I can redirect that to say, we're not on Discord anymore. Here's the new invite link to the service we now use. You know. So yeah. Discord economically relevant for business? Nope. So easy for me to say, but also, while, you know, YouTube is relevant to my business, but also, your business should be built of multiple revenue streams, and you should be able to lose one of them at any given time. And that might be a punch to the face. That might suck. Like, if I lost YouTube revenue, that would suck, but I would survive.
Yeah.
So if YouTube has to explode, then so be it.
That is also
You know.
being reasonably specific with that, in saying, like, you can't just say, oh, what if repairing things goes away? Because repairing things going away is
Yeah.
such a wide topic,
Well-
and is also the fact of that's literally the entirety of the business is fixing stuff.
Yeah, well, that's it. You know,
You can't take away fixing
Yeah.
stuff from the business plan. There is
Yeah.
no countering that.
This is why, you know, lots of, you know, like now and then it's the question has always come up of like, you know, oh, what if YouTube really took off? Would you give up the shop and just do YouTube videos? And I'm like, no, because the shop is immortal.
Yeah.
If the shop ends up being me sitting in a garage collecting returns, you know, Adamant IT is immortal. Adamant IT lives on forever. What form it takes is up for debate, but you cannot stop me fixing people's things. So long as I'm doing that, I will survive. After everything else has exploded, I will find things to fix and fix them, you know. So that's the thing, is just so, you know, yeah, Discord can explode for all I care. Even YouTube can explode for all I care. I don't want it to. I would like these things to continue. However, if you're in a position where something exploding is a threat to your livelihood, then you need to think about that and think what you would do in that situation.
Yeah, disaster recovery planning.
Yeah. So why did you stop uploading on Odyssey? Because the automated system broke, apparently, because I didn't. I had an automated system that was automatically grabbing videos when I upload them to YouTube. So if they've stopped appearing on Odyssey, then apparently that system has broken. So yeah, the Odyssey auto syndication must have broken. Yeah. But are Odyssey even still alive? Because as far I thought that they had exploded. But
They have a website still.
ooh, yeah, they're still going apparently. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, yep, still going. You can do live videos now. Wow. Fair enough.
You can join RT News.
Wow.
Sorry, it was just the first result that came up loading the Odyssey page.
I see,
Was
yeah.
RT News. I was just like, I see.
Yeah. How's that older server doing? I haven't done anything with it for ages, but I keep thinking about it because it's still humming away in the corner. I want to set things up on it. I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm probably going to be thinking about it a lot more soon though, because like I said, I'm starting to do my Linux. Well, I haven't started doing the Linux challenge. I've installed Linux on a computer, which is a step closer to doing the Linux challenge. So yeah. So that will be a thing. Any thoughts on the Firefox AI enhancement block? Nope, because I already quit Firefox. They had already put too much bollocks into it, and I was like, this is why I left Google Chrome. So bye-bye, see you sweetie, bye honey. And I went to Waterfox, which is the same engine with none of the bullshit. And I have not looked back. So yep. What is the best stream? Do you mean like the best revenue stream? I wouldn't say there's any best one. They all contribute. But yeah. And that's the trick, is to have lots of streams all contributing. So one of them exploding doesn't have a meaningful impact. But also though, I think we need to be capable of cutting off bad influences. This is why I'm continually frustrated by anyone who is still on X. There are lots of artists who are still on X, despite the fact that it is extremely destructive to their profession to be there. And they say, this is where my audience is. I'm like, your audience will follow you. They will go to where your content is. You need to leave. Anyway, but that's another discussion. will you video your Linux challenge? Yes, that's the plan. Yeah, what is your challenge?
But probably retrospectively, there you go. Sorry, I got hung up on
Yeah, a little bit,
I
yeah.
got hung up on post-mortem there, and I was
Yeah.
like, that is not the words I want.
Yeah, it'll probably be a little bit retrospective. I mean,
More a case of like, I started this 2 weeks ago, and here is where I am, kind of thing.
The video that I did on the Arc B580, it'll actually be basically the same format. I'm going to do all the same things. I'll be like, right, here's what I use my computer for. I do gaming, I do Blender, I do streaming, I do video editing. I'm going to try and do all of these things in Linux, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, now, and here's an interesting thing. I can't remember where it was, but I saw someone the other day where someone said, oh, the problem with these Linux challenges on YouTube is YouTubers keep throwing curveballs at Linux and getting it to do things that are outside the scope of the average user. Like streaming and video editing. The average Joe isn't doing that, so they don't need to worry about that. So people saying Linux is no good because they couldn't do this complicated thing that the vast majority of people don't do, I'm like, yes, that's a fair point. And that's why in my Linux challenge, I will be trying all of these things, but I will also be approaching this from the fact of like, okay, look, I tried to do this. This was a bit scuffy, this didn't go very well, but also, if you're not doing that, this isn't a problem for you. And I'm also going to be trying to nail down what I believe the quality of life and general experience is. Because that was also a big point that I was trying to make with the Arc B580. This is, I made huge points about saying this isn't about performance. This is about the quality of life of using this product. Did things just work? Did I have to change my habits in order to accommodate this product? Yeah. That's going to be my approach with the Linux challenge, is looking at what habits I need to change and how painful that may or may not have been, So yeah, things will be different. I will have to use different apps for certain things. However, is that such a bad thing? Was it difficult to switch to a different app, and that kind of thing, like for the Linux gaming, how hard was it to actually get a bunch of games running? Sure, there's going to be some games that don't run. That's fine. We know this. I'm not going to disqualify it because I couldn't play the esports game that requires kernel level anti-cheat kind of thing. We know that doesn't work. However, how much work was it for me to just get just some games running that I enjoy? What percentage of them just worked, and what percentage of them were a massive ball ache?
Yeah.
And it will be a sample size of me, but that's why you've got to look at a wide range of people's opinions.
Yeah, it's kind of a case of like, if all of the games you play don't work, it's non-viable for you.
Yeah. That's it. If most of the games that I play don't work, then that's a deal breaker. And people will be like, well, that's not fair because of X, Y, and Z. I'm like, the outcome is the same. If I can't play my games on Linux, then Linux is no good to me.
Yeah.
I don't care what the reason why is. I don't care if if the games need to change, if it's the game's fault and the developer's fault, sure, I'll agree with you. And I hope that they support Linux in the future. But that doesn't change the here and now. That's what my response to that will be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm tired of groups like LTT doing their Linux challenge and taking the piss. They are, okay, so LTT did their Linux challenge a long time ago, and they do agree that it was a flawed test. They are about to start another one, and Linus is going all in. He has said he's replacing like his computer, his laptop, everything. Everything he uses will be Linux based. He is going full dive kind of thing. And he's like, no, I am going full gung-ho try-hard mode this time, So in fairness, they're aware that their last Linux challenge was a flawed test, and this time they're doing it different. So I think that's worth pointing out.
Yeah.
So yeah. However, also though, I think a lot of people doing a Linux challenge have also run into the issue of just. They need to analyze whether their test was valid or not. Like, for example, I'm deliberately going to be doing my challenge on Linux Mint, and lots of people are being like, oh, you've got to use Bazite because that's designed for gaming. And I'm like, yeah, but you can't upgrade things on Bazite, which defies the point. We're back to where we started. And so I want to use Linux Mint and be like, okay, I'm going to use this. I want to install Steam. I want to install Proton. I want to install anything else that is required. How hard is that to do?
Yeah.
And I understand I'm going to have to do some installation. I understand some of these things might require me to open the command line. But how much of it required the command line? Did the command line just work? How much of this is a situation of just doing, maybe I can install all of these things just by opening the package manager and not using the command line. That's what this challenge is going to be about. All of it is going to be possible, but what is that user experience like? I don't know. That's why I want to do the challenge. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mint will do you just fine. That's why I picked it, because Mint seems to be a very good balance of mainstream support whilst being reasonably up to date. Because, for example, one of my other friends did do a challenge and had issues getting VR stuff working, and they ran into this issue where only certain kernel versions worked with their VR setup, which was Vive. However, I know that, I'm 99% certain I'll be able to get my VR setup working because I've got friends on VR chat who use Linux. And they're also using the Quest. So they will have some kind of virtual desktop system. So I will simply say to them, what virtual desktop client are you using? And I will simply use that. So yeah. But yeah, Steam does a lot for you anyway. Yeah, so apparently we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I think I've picked what will be a reasonable amount of challenge. That will be some tricky things that will be harder than average, but also not what the average person does. But hopefully will be a good demonstration that Linux has gotten more accessible and easier, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that a... Oh, it's just people outside the front. Okay, fine. All right. There was clattering at the front door, and I'm like, why are people standing in my doorway making a noise? Anyway, it is 6 o'clock, so I think we're going to wrap up here.
It is time.
It is time.
Good heavens, look at the time.
All right. Okay, I'm going to go get a pizza. Ban them from this media. Oh, no. I think Paige just got shot by Nightbot. No!
Paige has been exploded.
Yep, Paige has been exploded. However, if you want to see Paige cartoons and myself, you got bops, yeah. We are going to Twitch. In an hour, hopefully, at 7 p.m., we will be live on Twitch playing randomized games. I'm going to be playing Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Paige is going to be playing Sonic Adventure 2. We are playing a randomized game mode where the items from our games are scrambled between the games. So Paige will be looking for items from my game. I'll be looking for items from Paige's game. We both have to progress to help each other progress. That will be starting at 7 p.m. on Twitch. There's my channel. Paige will also be live. I have no idea what our layout is going to look like yet because I was a big dum-dum and didn't organize any of this in advance. Paige was talking to me about it a week ago, and I was like, yeah, I'll get it sorted at the weekend. And by weekend, I mean last weekend, and I didn't get it sorted. I have downloaded the software, though, so we've got that far.
That's a good start.
Yeah. Playing cartoons is my father. Anyway, so if you want to hear more of my dumb voice, then tune in to twitch.tv/nethsm in approximately an hour, and I will be there having eaten pizza and drunk coffee.
Better than having eaten coffee and drunk pizza.
Yes. Crunch, 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 yum, yum, yum. Cool. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thank you for the super chats. And we'll see you all soon. Which pizza? I don't know yet. A New Yorker, I think.
Meat Lovers Special.
Yeah, well, maybe that, yeah.
With extra pepperoni.
Yeah. All right.
Goodbye!
Bye!